We've got one more weekend of action before next weekend's ACC Championship Game, and there are some huge matchups to close out the regular season. Welcome into Playbook. I'm Melissa Ray, filling in for Chris Clark. Here's the game we're all really looking forward to. Clemson and Notre Dame both off this weekend, getting ready for the ACC Championship Game next week. Of course, these two Titans did meet already this season. The Irish edged the Tigers in 2 overtimes back on November 7th. But Clemson will remind you that Heisman hopeful Trevor Lawrence was out for that one. That was Clemson's only loss of the season, while the Irish went undefeated in their first season as members of the ACC. There will be fans in the stands to cheer on Notre Dame and Clemson next week, but capacity will be limited to 7% at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. That means a maximum of about 5,000 people will be there. But let's get back to this week, and we don't have to wait until Saturday for the action to start. Pitt and Georgia Tech are kicking off right now in Atlanta. This one was originally scheduled back in November, but was postponed until tonight. Both teams are looking to rebound from losses last week. Pitt went onto the road and got blown out by Clemson, and Georgia Tech lost by 10 to NC State and Raleigh. We'll check back in on this one later in the show. The Miami Hurricanes were coming off a 48-0 shutout win over Duke and now have a top 25 ACC matchup set for Saturday as number 10 Miami hosts number 17 North Carolina. This game could have big bowl game implications for the winner. It's the first time in 7 weeks the Hurricanes play at home at Hard Rock Stadium. And if you've heard anything about the Hurricanes, you've heard about quarterback D'Eriq King, who's thrown for more than 2,300 yards and 20 touchdowns. But the challenge he presents to the Tar Heels is his run game. He's also rushed for 467 yards, and North Carolina has had a hard time containing mobile quarterbacks, as we saw recently in the Notre Dame loss. Canes coach Manny Diaz explains, though, that this conference is full of talent, not only at quarterback, but also in the backfield.
There's some experienced quarterbacks in our league this year. It's also an amazing year this year for running backs. The running back depth in our league this year, obviously the two that we're playing this weekend, but, you know, Etienne, you had Hawkins at Louisville, the guy at Notre Dame is special. I mean, so there's just, but that's what you kind of expect to see in our league, you know, week in, week out, expect to see great challenges, and there'll be two great quarterbacks certainly on display Saturday.
North Carolina played a top 10 team just 2 weeks ago, losing to Notre Dame 31-17. This is another opportunity to show they can play with the nation's elite. And this is more than just bragging rights. This is potentially for a spot in the Orange Bowl. The ACC champion gets a bid to the Orange Bowl unless it's selected for the college football playoff. If Clemson beats Notre Dame in the ACC title game, there's a likely possibility that both the Tigers and Fighting Irish will be in the Final Four. If that happens, the Orange Bowl would be the next best available ACC team, which, you guessed it, is the scenario would be the winner of Miami and North Carolina.
Alyssa, the seniors, 4 years ago, they didn't go to a bowl. 3 years ago, they didn't go to a bowl. Last year and this week, they were fighting to get to a bowl. They didn't care where they were going. And now they're playing a top 10 team with a chance to go to a big bowl. So I told them, congratulations to you. It looks like we've got a great chance to get an 11th game in, which who thought that would happen? And it's not happening across the country in a lot of different conferences.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously another great opportunity for our team. You know, obviously the other one, the last top 10 team we played, the game didn't go our way, but this is a great opportunity for our team and our program. You know, it's the last regular season game of the year, so we definitely want to go out with the win, and against a team like Miami, it'll be really good for the trajectory of this program, and it's definitely a game we need to win.
Kickoff at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami is Saturday afternoon at 3:30. After a rough start to the season, Virginia is on a roll. The Cavaliers have now won 4 straight, but if they want to make it 5, they'll have to do so with a big one. It's the Commonwealth Clash this weekend, with Virginia heading to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech. WRIC's Natalie Calabat is covering the Cavs.
Last year's Commonwealth Clash is one that Virginia will never forget. The Cavaliers won 39-30 to end a 15-year losing streak and clinch a spot in the ACC Championship Game. Now the Cavaliers will try for their first win in Blacksburg since 1998.
Certainly the folks in state are the ones that were most thrilled, and I noticed that from them most, from a broader perspective and a national perspective, it was more just the continued growth and improvement.
The Cavaliers have momentum after winning their 4th straight game on Saturday, but head coach Bronco Mendenhall knows his team is in for another tough challenge.
Virginia Tech is hard-nosed. They're run first, they're physical, they're tough, they play aggressively. The scheme builds on each other. There's great screens and play actions and RPOs, and then just good personnel.
Once again, the game will be the final one of the regular season for both schools.
I think one of the values of having a rivalry game at the end of the season is motivation. And regardless of how your season has gone, there's always that game. And this year, maybe more than any.
Kickoff from Lane Stadium is at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Covering Virginia, I'm Natalie Calabat.
Thank you, Natalie. Virginia Tech doesn't have quite the same momentum that their rival Cavaliers have. In fact, the Hokies have lost 4 in a row, with their last win coming all the way back on Halloween. But as WFXR's Jermaine Farrell reports, the Hokies do have history on their side.
The Virginia Tech Hokies, after an off week facing the 4th-ranked Clemson Tigers last Saturday night at Lane Stadium in front of a primetime network TV audience, and the Virginia Tech football team battled all the way up until midway through the 3rd quarter, when the Tigers scored 28 unanswered points to go on to get the win 45-10 at Lane Stadium. Tech, with their 4th straight loss in the season, is now 4-6 overall and 4-5 in ACC. Playing 3 quarterbacks due to injuries during the game, Tech never found its rhythm in the second half, resulting in 119 yards of offense in the 3rd and 4th frames. Now the focus shifts to the Commonwealth Clash week. On the gridiron, the Virginia Tech Hokies preparing to host the Virginia Cavaliers. Kickoff set for 8 Saturday night in Blacksburg. UVA ended a 15-game losing streak to Virginia Tech, winning last year's game and getting the Commonwealth Cup back in Charlottesville.
For us, it's about competition. You know, like I think if you're a true competitor, you're not afraid to put yourself in the arena and lay it on the line. Do your best to prepare, and go put yourself out there for everyone to see. You know, risk success and risk failure, and that's what being a competitor is all about. So we love the competitive part of it, and I think the passion from both fan bases is pretty evident.
Now, in the battle with Virginia, this will be the 102nd meeting between the Commonwealth Cup rivals. Virginia Tech leading the series 58-38-5. Kickoff from Lane Stadium is set again Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Covering the Virginia Tech Hokies, I'm Jermaine Farrell.
You heard Jermaine. The rivalry resumes Saturday night under the lights at 8. Each team looking for their 5th conference win of the season. Wake Forest is getting ready for their first game in nearly a month. The Demon Deacons will travel to Louisville after 3 straight weekends of cancellations, postponements, or scheduled bye weeks. But as WGHP's Kevin Conley explains, they'll have to find a replacement for one of their biggest threats on offense.
Wake Forest fully expects to play Louisville on Saturday. The Deacons are emerging from a month-long COVID shutdown. Head coach Dave Clawson admitted this week that it's almost like starting over. Running back Kenneth Walker III is opting out for the remainder of the season. Walker was averaging over 80 yards a game with 13 touchdowns through 7 games. So that production will be missed. But it is 2020, and Dave Clawson wants to respect the decisions that his players feel they had to make.
And at this point, I think Kenneth, with concerns with COVID, has decided that he's not going to play again this year. And if he changes his mind and is willing to go through all the protocols, we'd love to have him back, but we're expecting to play the rest of the year without him at this point.
But again, it's their choice, and that's a big thing that coach has been great about, is nobody's held hostage here. The guys that want to be here want to be here, and I'm stoked because we get to play another potentially 3 games.
Coaches love to point towards learning opportunities whenever possible. Clawson believes, as bad as this year has been because of the pandemic, dealing with it has given his players and the program an opportunity to grow.
We've been here nonstop since July 1st, no breaks. Don't get to go home on a weekend, don't get to go home on a bye week. And it's a challenge and it's a grind, but if you can do this, you're developing mental toughness. And those traits are going to help our football team the next 3 weeks, the next 3 years, and for some of these players, the rest of their life.
The goal remains the same. The Deacons want to reach a bowl game and keep that streak alive. Covering Wake Forest, I'm Kevin Conley.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, Louisville's game against Wake Forest will be the Cardinals' final time on the field this season. And WEHT's Randall Parmley is here to tell us some Cardinal fans aren't too happy with their head coach, who they say is already looking ahead to next fall.
Well, it has been an eventful extended break for Scott Satterfield and the Louisville Cardinals. Satterfield, who is in only his second season in Louisville, angered the fan base when he had informal talks with South Carolina about its job opening, while saying he was committed to Louisville. Now, that, in all honesty, happens a lot to coaches. Satterfield apologized to the Louisville fans earlier this week, saying the only reason he talked to South Carolina was its proximity to where he grew up and spent the bulk of his playing and coaching career. Satterfield said, "I do want to apologize to the fans out there. I understand what has transpired in the past with the head coaching football job here." Of course, he's referring to that whole Bobby Petrino fiasco. Satterfield went on to say, "It was never my intention to hurt anyone with that." Now, Satterfield has since reiterated Louisville is indeed where he wants to be. The Cards, by the way, close ACC play this weekend, hosting Wake Forest. Covering the Louisville Cardinals, I'm Randall Parmley.
All right, Randall, the Cardinals and Demon Deacons kick off at noon on Saturday in Louisville, and it could be a messy one with some rain in the forecast. Duke has 2 more games left in the regular season. Starting this weekend at Florida State, the Seminoles haven't played in almost a month due to COVID issues and are no doubt ready to take the field. The Blue Devils coming off the shutout loss to Miami, but Duke now has a team that on paper they can beat. Both teams have just 2 wins on the season, and there's nothing more Duke wants than to go redeem themselves in Tallahassee this weekend. There's one thing to say about this Duke team, though. They're mentally resilient. No one's thrown in the towel, just regrouping and going back to work.
I think sweat helps. It's been a difficult time throughout the season, but they've answered the bell. One shot for our seniors, and that's certainly a big part of the focus. And you know, back to work, playing a really good, talented Florida State football team. They've not had the year they wanted to have either, but we're playing another team that's been off a month, so you're not sure what you're going to get, and you know certainly you're going to see a fresh Florida State football team. So big work week for us, but we're looking forward to the challenge.
All right, kickoff in Tallahassee is Saturday afternoon at 4. Even though these teams are right next to each other in the standings, Duke will have to reverse some history if they want to beat the Seminoles. As WMBB's Courtney Mims reports, Florida State is undefeated against the Blue Devils.
It almost looked like the season was over for the Florida State Seminoles, but it's not. The team finally back in action this week after they haven't played for almost a month due to COVID-19 related issues. The Noles will host the Duke Blue Devils in Tally, and on paper, it looks like this will be a good matchup for Florida State. That's because Duke has never beaten the Noles. FSU is truly unconquered against them, as their all-time record against the Blue Devils is 20-0. However, this is 2020, and anything can happen. The Seminoles come into this one 2-6, while Duke just 2-8. FSU head coach Mike Norvell said even though the Blue Devils have had some disappointments throughout the year, they are capable of playing really good football.
They've shown those flashes throughout the season. You know, the thing that's hurt them is when they have turned the ball over. So we've got to make sure that for our team that we're not giving them extra possessions. That if we can get an opportunity to get our hands on the ball on defense and in special teams, that we take advantage of those opportunities. But we know that we're about to play a very well coached team. It's going to come in and compete at a high level.
The Seminoles have also had quite a few issues and injuries at the quarterback position, but Coach Norvell said Wednesday they do have starting QB Jordan Travis back and healthy for this one, and that freshman Tate Roadmaker is also ready if needed. Reporting on Florida State, I'm Courtney Mims.
Nearly every game across the conference this week could have an impact on the postseason. And of course, we can't help but look ahead to next week's ACC title game, too. So let's bring in Jason Logan from Covers.com to help us break it all down. And Jason, we're still a week away, but Clemson faces Notre Dame in the ACC Championship on December 19th, with the Tigers looking to avenge that loss to the Irish last month. Of course, Trevor Lawrence was out of action for that meeting. What do odds makers expect for this high-stakes rematch?
Yeah, so the odds for the ACC title game, they went up Tuesday night. Clemson as a 7.5-point favorite, neutral site game in Charlotte. If we go back to that Week 10 meeting, the Tigers actually closed as 5-point favorites in South Bend. And if you look at the look-ahead line for that game, which was actually set way back in the spring, they had Clemson as a 7.5-point road favorite. Of course, Clemson not having Lawrence really helped out with the Notre Dame win, but also, too, the Tigers were missing some key components to that defense. And since that loss and the return of Trevor Lawrence, we've seen the Tigers outscore their last two opponents by a combined 97-27. This game's going to go a long way in determining the CFB playoff picture as well. Notre Dame, if Notre Dame wins, it's likely going to knock Clemson out of that playoff conversation. But if the Tigers win, and if it's a close win, you could see two ACC schools sneak into the playoffs here. Clemson is a plus 200 to win the national title. That's the second overall favorite on the board behind Alabama at minus 115. And Notre Dame is the fourth overall favorite in terms of the college football championship at plus 750. That's behind Ohio State at plus 700. So odds makers think the ACC has a good chance of getting two teams into the playoffs.
The big game in the ACC this weekend is a battle of ranked teams, North Carolina versus Miami. This is also a showcase of two of the top quarterbacks in the country, with UNC led by Sam Howell and the Canes headlined by Derek King. Which star quarterback will shine brightest this Saturday?
Yeah, Miami is at home pegged as a 3-point favorite for Saturday afternoon. Howell's been sensational this year. He leads the ACC in passing, and he has some tremendous weapons around him, too. But King, this guy is a one-man playbook out there. And we've seen what he's done all year, but what he's done with the past 3 games has been remarkable, especially because it's all come on the road here. In his last 3 games, King has 9 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, 933 total yards passing, and a passer rating above 175. And that's just with his arm. With his legs, he's amassed 166 total yards rushing and 2 more touchdowns on the ground in that span, too. So Howell was able to knock off Miami as a freshman in Chapel Hill there last season, but now this game is shifting to Miami, going to be played at Hard Rock Stadium. The Canes are 4-0 straight up, haven't lost yet in Miami, and they're 3-1 against the spread in those home games, too.
Virginia and Virginia Tech add another chapter to their rivalry in the night game Saturday. The Cavaliers riding a red-hot 4-game win streak, while the Hokies are mired with a 4-game losing skid. But when it comes to these heated rivalry games, how much does emotion play into the result?
It plays in a little bit here. So Virginia Tech is a 2.5-point home favorite, just under that key number of a field goal. This game was originally scheduled for September. It was rescheduled due to the COVID outbreak with VT. So it appears that odds makers are giving a little bit of an edge here in this rivalry game to Virginia Tech, giving them a little bit of credit despite that losing skid. If you look at kind of recent betting trends around the Commonwealth Clash here, underdog 6-2 ATS in the last 8 meetings, which is something you tend to see pop up in rivalry games. However, home teams have really had the edge here too. They're 6-1 ATS in the last 7 meetings between these programs. Like I said, those type of underdog trends will pop up in these emotionally driven games. And, you know, despite what's happened along the season, you can kind of make amends if you knock off your rival at the end of the year, no matter what's happened before that. And that's kind of where we find Virginia Tech right now, which at the end of a year in which is going to be their second losing season since 1992. There's a lot of pride on the line this weekend for Virginia Tech. If we dissect Virginia's success in that 4-game winning streak, it was all built at home, where they averaged 35.4 points per game. However, Virginia is winless on the road. They took on Clemson, Wake Forest, and Miami as a visitor, and they scored only an average of 20 points per contest in those 3 away games. So the total for this one is at 62 points. If VT is going to end that losing skid and end the season on a bright note, they got to fix that defense. So I'm going to lean under 62 points here, knowing that Virginia has struggled on the road, and there's a lot of pride on the line here for Virginia Tech.
I have been to plenty of those games. Of course, no fans in Lane Stadium. It'll be a little different, but still a good one. Thanks, Jason. Enjoy another busy weekend of college football.
All right, thanks. Enjoy the games.
And besides Clemson and Notre Dame, the regular season is also already over for 3 other teams. Boston College, NC State, and Syracuse played their final games of the season last week. Syracuse finished the year 1-10 overall. Earlier today, Boston College announced that they're opting out of a bowl game this year. The school's athletic director says he wants to make sure the players can spend time with their families and loved ones over the holidays. But NC State still has their eyes on a bowl game. In fact, the Wolfpack is having its best season in more than a decade, and NC State players say head coach Dave Doeren should get a lot of the credit. WNCN's Todd Gibson has more.
On December 19th, the ACC will name the league's Coach of the Year, and NC State's Dave Doeren is most certainly in the mix. In fact, he just might be the favorite. The Wolfpack doubled its win total from a year ago, and for the first time ever, won 7 league games, thanks in part to its head coach.
But I'm not one to take credit, for things like that. I'm just thankful and feel blessed that we're in the situation we are. It's been a fun year. It's a special group. Going into the year, had you told me that we were going to deal with not only the COVID, but the number of injuries that we had, and that we would win this many games, I'd probably laugh at you, and so it says a lot about this football team.
Obviously, with the last year's performance, we had to change something. He's always trying to adapt and change his off-season approach so that, he gives us the best opportunity to win in the upcoming season.
It's not like we have a ton of new guys this year than versus last year, so it's kind of been good to see just a development of the program. Coach Doeren really bringing us all together to have a better year this year.
Doeren and the Wolfpack now await their postseason assignment, with the Gator Bowl looking like the most likely destination. Following the Wolfpack in Raleigh, I'm Todd Gibson.
Thank you, Gibby. And we're now 9 days away from the ACC Championship game. Not that we're counting. The undefeated Fighting Irish, who are ranked 2nd in the country, will take on 3rd-ranked Clemson on Saturday, December 19th. The Notre Dame football program has a rich history, but an ACC championship would be a first for them. That's not the case for Clemson. The Tigers are looking for their 6th consecutive ACC title.
It's just an awesome matchup. I mean, you couldn't really dream up any bigger if you're a competitor, like top 4 matchup for a title where a trophy is going to be given out this time. I think this one might matter a little bit more because it's going to be confetti flying. Whoever wins this game is I feel like they're definitely the true champion of the ACC. And then to come in and for them to win it in a year would just be, we don't want that to happen. This has been our league, and we want to continue to defend that and for Clemson to be the ones on top. And so, yeah, I think it's a special opportunity, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know they're really excited about playing for championship. This is what they've wanted. This has been the impetus for them to make all the sacrifices that they have made to get to this point. Living through this pandemic has been very difficult for them, and so I mean, this is really what they've been chasing: the opportunity to win an ACC championship and to win a national championship. So exciting, yes, absolutely. This is what they've been, shooting for from the very first time that the university decided to open up campus. This has been their goal.
If this one is anything like the double overtime game Notre Dame and Clemson played back in November, we're in for a treat. We'll have extra analysis going into this one next week on Playbook, so be sure to come back next Thursday. And before we go, let's take a look at the score in Atlanta, where Pitt and Georgia Tech are squaring off in a Thursday night game. Right now, Pitt leads 3-0. The Panthers got a field goal on their opening drive after running back Vincent Davis picked up 74 yards on the first play of scrimmage. The Panthers then picked off Tech quarterback Jeff Sims on the Yellow Jackets' first play, and now Pitt's offense is already in the red zone again. Thanks for joining us for Playbook. Remember, you can watch a new episode every Thursday night at 7. And until next week, enjoy some football. Have a great night.